board members present, along with our new superintendent, Joshik. And if you please stand and join me with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome. We have a meeting, our meeting agenda was sent out earlier. Are there any additions or corrections? I have none. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Rowe. Is there a second by Ms. Ossendorf? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Our educational plan, we follow that. That's up on the wall at all our meetings. And tonight, Ms. Rowe is going to read our mission statement.
The mission of the Red Wing Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is recognitions and upcoming events. Anything coming up here that you want to recognize? Anybody? Pretty quiet during the summer, isn't it? This is our only meeting of the month of July. You said today's summer school kicked off?
Yep.
So that started, that's something going on. Other than that, can't think of anything else really going on before our next meeting on August, whatever, 5th. One of those months.
On River City Days,
Oh, yeah.
Red Wing Public Schools.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
So for River City Days, what we decided to do is we're just gonna have a booth during the River City Days, and it's just an effort to promote Red Wing Public Schools, show them some of the great things that we do here, and have the opportunity for some of us staff to be able to meet some of the community.
Okay, thank you. And then we've had a few emails from that, setting up times for people to sign up for it. So, thank you. Anything else?
In September, we will have our very first powwow for the Red Wing Public Schools District, the 13th. Is that Friday? That's Friday.
Could be.
The Friday, the 13th. Ooh, Friday the 13th.
The week before homecoming.
Yeah, week before homecoming. The Friday will be district educational day. Everything's gonna be out on the football field. And we will bus the students from the different schools.
We're still working on some of those logistics there.
Some of those logistics,
So there
yeah.
might be some change to that.
Yep, and then the Saturday powwow is open up to the public
Okay,
At the school field.
at the school field.
and we'll do that. We'll have more information as we get closer to that too. So, all right, is there anybody here for public comment? Mr. Josh, did you receive any requests for public comment?
I did not.
I have not either. One more time, anybody here for public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. And this evening, we have the Red Wing College Promise Update. Please pull up enough chairs, whoever's gonna come up here, and whatever you need there. And now, good evening, introduce yourselves and welcome.
Well, Chair Bryant and board members, I'm Marcia Danielson, president of Minnesota State College Southeast. Thank you for the opportunity to give an update on the Red Wing College Promise tonight.
And I'm Diane Jacobson. I'm the Red Wing College Promise Navigator.
Okay, someone's going to pull it up for us? It is up?
Lisa's,
I forgot to tell Lisa to record, but she thought that already, didn't she? Lisa, you there? There she is.
There we go. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, got it.
One more. So this is a partnership between the Jones Family Foundation and the Minnesota State College Southeast, and we have members from the Jones Family Foundation who are here with us, and of course, we're grateful for their partnership. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Sheila Beckner on the Jones Family Foundation Board.
Rochelle Cobb with the Jones Family Foundation.
And thank you for being here. Next slide. So just a brief overview, we've presented here before. So the objectives of the program for the Red Wing College Promise really there are several. To grow the number of area high school grads that are attending college, to attract families to the district, to grow the enrollment at Southeast, to strengthen the workforce pipeline, and to distinguish the Red Wing area as someone that continuously invests in our youth. Next slide.
So the College Promise provides each qualifying student with up to 70 college credits at Southeast. That includes another $500 per year for up to 2 years for a $1,000 stipend that can be used toward books and other materials, tools, anything like that. And it also provides assistance from the decision-making process all the way to college graduation. So assistance while they're still in high school and while they're in college. Next slide. In order to qualify for the College Promise, students need to have graduated from the 4 schools in the Red Wing Public School District with a Red Wing Public School diploma. So that's Red Wing High School, Tower View, Five Rivers Online, and the River Bluff Education District. They need to live in the Red Wing District and get a 2.0 GPA, high school GPA, or work with me to complete an academic success plan if they have less than a 2.0 high school GPA. Next slide. So students can enroll in any program, any location, Red Wing, Winona, or online, any certificate, diploma, or associate's degree. And the goal is for them to be ready for a career or to graduate ready to go on to get a bachelor's degree.
So we wanted to share with you, next slide. We wanted to share with you just a little bit of data about how this first year ended up. We're really excited about it. Had a meeting with the Jones Family Foundation earlier today, and they are equally as pleased with the outcomes. So we get our projections from the state and national resources. It's called the NCES data. And then Diane checks in with the school district on how many of the individuals who are in their senior year, how many are eligible for the Red Wing College Promise. So she told you about the eligibility. They need to live in the school district. They need to attend one of the 4, et cetera. And so out of the 192 that were eligible, this year we ended up with 55 students who attended. We had 52 in the fall. We had 45 in the spring, which were 3 new students, and we lost 10 students. So we're really very pleased with those results. You can see on the slide that the majority of students are coming from Red Wing Senior High, but Tower View had 5, Five Rivers Online had 2, and the River Bluff Education Center had 3. So we have about a 29% of the student body who were eligible in that first year who attended who attended Southeast. And next is the enrollment data. And here we're just really, really excited to let you know that we had 59 this past year. We have
Lisa, next slide, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Thank you. We have 59 last year total. This year we already have 57 who have registered for Southeast for the fall, and we still have 5 remaining weeks before the school year starts. The most exciting thing for us is our persistence rate. So the students who came in the fall and stayed with us through the spring, we have an 82% persistence rate, and that compares to a national average of 69. So it's very high, and we know that having a navigator, a coach like Diane, it's really making a difference. Students have that one-stop shop. They know who to go to when they have a question, concern, and Diane is following the students and getting to know them personally. So on the president's list at Southeast, we had 12 in the fall and 10 in the spring, and we've already graduated 5 students with a credential.
Next slide, please. The top programs of interest for the class of 2024. So this is the graduating class. Approximately 1/3 of those students are looking into a healthcare related field. So nursing, both ASN and LPN, and also radiography are some of our most popular options. Also, quite a few students looking into the liberal arts and sciences or other transfer pathways. So they intend to go on and get their 4-year bachelor's degree. And then business administration, there's a lot of students in this particular group that want to start their own business in Red Wing. So that's been a really popular choice this year also. Next slide, please. We wanted to share a few of the student comments with you so you can kind of see what some of the things that the students are saying. Students, as part of the application process to the College Promise, they do need to fill out the scholarship application. And there is an essay in there specifically about what the College Promise, how it has affected their college and career decisions. And so I really focused and pulled these comments from students who had said in their essay, I wasn't going to go to college, or I had never even considered going to college. And of the 94 College Promise students who completed the scholarship application for this next year coming up, 29 of them, which is about 30%, indicated that they probably would not have even gone to college if it hadn't been for the Promise program. So this first student, I'll give you just a minute to read it. Stated right out that they just weren't into college. They weren't going to go, didn't know where to start, but they do now. And pointed out that they have access to higher education and new opportunities. So I love that they weren't into it. They didn't know what they were going to do, but they do now. Next slide. The second student I focused on here, I'll give you just a minute to scan through that one. And we highlighted there that this student in particular is really proud to be the first in their family to be able to go to college, and that their parents had never had the opportunity to do that, and how worried they were about the money. So I love that this removes that worry for them, and so that it actually makes college possible in their mind, removing those psychological barriers. Next slide. And the third and final one, I'll give you just a minute to read it. I think this quote shows an unusual awareness of what it takes to break generational cycles in education. So for me, it's really been a privilege to be supportive of all these students in their journey. Next slide.
So that concludes our presentation. We just wanted to know if you have other questions for us.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Bjornstad, then Ms. Schultz.
If a student does a semester and decides, oh, I need to work more, whatever, and they come back and pick up and finish.
So board member Bjornstad, yes, I just enrolled one today. He started with us in the fall. He needed to stop out for a semester. He's back, and it took 10 minutes. It was very easy.
And the student that completed the certification program in a year, if they wanted to do another 1-year program to get additional knowledge or another certificate, can they do that as well?
We have several students who are doing more than one program that came in with a lot of credits, maybe from PSEO. They want to start their own business in a particular area, so they're doing some business and some. So yes, we have students, they get 70 credits.
Okay.
So, yes.
Ms. Schultz.
I have 2 questions, thanks. Is any of this based on financial need, or is it open to everyone regardless of financial need?
Yes, Board Member Schoenfelder. It is not based on financial need. It's a Red Wing High School diploma and the GPA or a plan on how you're going to improve your academics.
And then more of a nitty-gritty question. So some of our students that attend 5RO, for example, they're Red Wing residents. And if they're attending 5RO more than 4 classes, I believe, they're considered full-time students at 5RO, not Red Wing. So they'll now be getting a diploma likely from 5RO and not Red Wing. How does that work with the College Promise? If they're not Red Wing graduates?
Board member Schoenfelder, the qualify if they graduate from the 4 schools, so Red Wing High School, 5 Rivers Online, Tower View, or River Bluff Education District, because to our knowledge right now, students graduating from 5RO can get a diploma from Red Wing High School. Their diploma says Red Wing High School or Red Wing Public Schools on it, unless that's changed recently.
We've got a little
We just
clarification that needs to happen on that.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're looking into to just see where that all sits, but
Keep us surprised.
yeah, we'll keep you in the loop.
Surprise to us too.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you guys for coming and, for Southeast and the Jones Family Foundation for the opportunity. I think it's phenomenal. Both of my kids went to, well, one is still going to Southeast. The other one did 2 years and went to the U of M. She didn't get College Promise because that was before that. But yeah, it's been a great opportunity and they've both had great experiences with the school. I think it's kind of an overlooked resource in our community. So I love that we're kind of making it a little bit more known to the kids here that it's a possibility. You can stay at home, which is maybe not the selling point for a lot of kids, but it saves a lot of money and then you're in a better place to move on later.
Thank you, Ms. Ostendorf.
And we've been talking about the College Promise ever since it was announced back in February of 2023. I was there when it was announced, but, it just took me back like, wow, this is unbelievable.
Yes.
But, yeah, and it's quite a gift. So we appreciate it, and we wish all kids went to Red Wing School and they could all live here and all graduate and all go over there. So thank you very much for coming this evening and sharing this information, and to Rochelle and Sheila, too, for stopping in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Administrative report. Superintendent.
So, all I know about the stuff with the APAC is that there is some funds that were designated there to allocate towards, some supplies, primarily Indigenous drum kits and sewing machines, some materials for ribbon skirts, beads, there's teepees. So that stuff has all arrived. I know one day we ended up with, how many, we have what, 10 sewing machines or something? that
We
were in-
have 5 sewing machines, and then the 50 Indigenous drums have arrived as well. So yeah.
So that stuff is here, so we'll be able to incorporate that into what happens come fall. Second one is the school logo. So back here a little while ago, in 23, the legislature banned the use of native likeness, image, or mascots. So Red Wing, because of its name, primarily Chief Red Wing was the namesake there. We can't exactly figure out what it is that is offensive in this particular situation because we're the Red Wing Wingers. We're not the Indians or the Braves or the Warriors or some of those names that have a tendency to be a little more polarizing. But at this stage, we're trying to figure out just what this means. We are hopeful, or at least cautiously optimistic, that we're going to be able to have an avenue that we will not be required to change our logo, but that's going to take some work. Make sure that we're going through all the proper steps. The one thing that we have that in our back pocket that's immensely important is we've got the full support to the Prairie Island community. Without that, this would be a moot point. We would not be able to do anything. So we do have their full support, and we're going to be working with them as we continue to go down this path. What I don't want to have be out there is Red Wing is changing their mascot. That is not the case. It is something that we are working towards. So we gotta be careful not to end up spreading any misinformation. So that's what we're working on there. An additional piece is the cell phone policy. So this spring, the legislature, again, they directed school districts within law we gotta have a cell phone policy in place. Now, we do have a cell phone policy that is there currently. We need to just look and see, is this meeting the best needs of our community, of our kids, of our staff? And make sure that we are creating an atmosphere that is good and solid for learning. And that we're also, again, meeting the needs of communication with kids. There's a lot of different factors that go into this, and we are going to end up having a lot of discussion. We've got a lot of work to do. What I'd like to see happen is that we're going to introduce this with the teachers. We already visited with it at the board level a little bit, just to kind of give them an update. We'll start working on this with teachers as soon as they get back in the fall. We need to engage with the staff, the students, the community, parents. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, because if we cannot get the support of this, it's going to be a very difficult thing. So ultimately, we have to have something in place by March 15th of 2025, so next spring. It would be my goal that we would have something in place probably coming out of, coming into second semester, so sometime in January perhaps. So don't have anything specific on this yet, other than we're just going to get going on this. We want to make sure that we are open and transparent, and that we include as many people in the policy-making process as we can. So ultimately, we want to have a better learning environment for our kids. We want it to be safe. We want it to be free of bullying. We just want to make sure that those things are all in place. So any questions, anything along the way of any of those three items that I touched base on yet?
We have a little something about the cell phone. We have a partial cell phone policy.
Yes.
We just wanna,
Going to kind of re-examine it, see what's there. Maybe seek a little bit more consistency depending upon what we're doing. Okay. So with Colville, for the most part, so each of these items here, these are probably things you're going to have to kind of go through and read for your own to a certain degree. I've touched base in a couple of the buildings. I haven't been over to Burnside yet. Twin Bluffs there, I haven't been over there. Well, I was at Twin Bluffs, sorry. So their summer school started today, so that's something that's getting going with kids. I stopped over at where did I go? Sunnyside. Went to Sunnyside, and the kids' junction stuff there was just rocking. They had 137 kids, I believe, over there that day, and I think there's 32 staff members. Lots of stuff going on, very fun. So that's kind of neat. So those are the big things there. One thing that we got to make note of is that we're still waiting on the Department of Ed on our alternative learning program related to Tower View. We have not received the information back on that, and it's primarily because of insufficient staffing at MDE. So everything's been submitted, everything's there. We are simply waiting for approval, and there's nothing we can really do to rush that process. We just got to kind of wait on their timeline. So those are the primary things there. So again, on those building and the programming updates, got a few new, we got new people that are coming all the time. Kelsey has started in HR, and that's been really beneficial. It's been already, I can see that we've got somebody who's going to be very helpful to our employees and for everybody involved. And that's really beneficial because so much flows through her office. And if it flows through her office, it doesn't always have to flow through mine or ultimately through you. So that's really been that's been nice. I've been able to meet with a number of staff that have come through. We've had, I've had some teachers, I've had some special ed folks that have come through. I've been able to be out in the community a fair amount. So lots of meeting people, lots of names and things that are going on. So right now, the big goal here is to be cranking up and getting ready for the beginning of school, because that is going to jump up and bite us very, very quickly. It's one of those deals, it's only July 15th, but it's already July 15th. So that's always a big concern. Right now, kids are enrolling and we got movement back and forth. We don't have a good solid indication yet on exactly what our numbers are gonna be in the kindergarten. I talked with Linda Johnson a little bit today and she says we're kind of on track with the normal pace of enrollments there. Just really like to encourage people who are going to be attending Red Wing School this year is to stop in and see us or make contact with us, because if we wait until September 3rd or August 29th, that really is a challenge getting everything in place and doing that. So I really hope that we can get people enrolled. If they have any questions, staff in here is great, so we'll be able to take them through and they can see what they need to see with the school and go from there. So that's been the kind of the primary stuff that's been going on. We had our board retreat today, and that was beneficial because we kind of got the opportunity to visit in a little more relaxed forum, and it was positive. We had some good discussions. The board was here, and then we had a number of staff that were here as well. So right now, 2 weeks in, it's been very, very busy, but it's also been very rewarding, so.
Very good. You have been busy. Good. Any questions for the superintendent on his report? Okay, thank you. Any committee reports? Been kind of quiet, I know. Do you have any, does anybody have any? Do you have one?
The negotiations team did meet to look over the director's contracts, and that will be coming up later in the business
Okay.
portion.
Anybody else have any meetings? Okay, moving on. Consent agenda? Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody wants to have removed for further discussion? Not removed, but hold for the time being? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the 4 items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Ossendorf, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Tip. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Finance update. Ms. Ryder, how are you?
I'm good. I'm going to just, I think I'll be here for a few minutes. I do have an update for the finance update that I would like to just pass out those handouts real quick as they were recently updated. And they are in the board packet. Let me take one and pass that down. And I'm just gonna go this way, avoid that way. Did everyone get a copy?
Coming this way.
Okay, if I missed one, let me know. All right, so Lisa, would you mind pulling that up for me, please, that PDF of the finance update? So I'm Lisa Ryder, Director of Finance and Operations for the school district. This update is for the month of May, and we recently recorded our cash receipts for the taxes that we received. And they come to a school district, but they come a little piece in the end of May and a little bit right at the beginning of June. And so when you make a comparison, if you want to make that a little bit bigger, just so they can focus on the fund data, Lisa, that'd be awesome. You'll see that we're a little bit slower than what we show in a year ago. And a big part of that is the second payment of taxes. It's $2 million, so it makes a big difference in those percentages. And in a year prior, both payments were put into May. This year, they were one in May and one in June, okay? When you look at the food service information, we are more updated sooner probably than we were a year ago with regard to receipts for food and nutrition. That's been an extra effort
with our new accountant learning the ropes and spending some time just focusing on the food and nutrition. So that's primarily the reason why you see such a difference there. Timing is what this is. You'll see it all come together when you see June compared to June, right? When we come to community education, I do want to comment on the fact that in '24, our budget for revenues does include some grants that we're not going to see those revenues nor the expenditures in this year because they are in the budget, but they are spread over 2 years. So you have the ability to spend them, but we probably won't. And since this is the first of those 2 years, we're just coming into this where last year we were in the last part of that 2-year grant. And so it's all about timing. So we will never really reach the percentage spent or received as you see in the prior year when it comes to the Community Education Fund. So these funds were just updated, and I just wanted to make sure that you had that in hand as we are now working hard on trying to wrap up the month of June and get all of the audit prepared for the auditors. I am happy to answer any questions there may be.
Any questions from Ms. Ryder? Just one, I guess, on the revenues for
Yep.
2024, June 30th. What, you have an estimate will be somewhat closer than the 30% that we're shy right now?
Yeah, so you tack in another $2 million there, and right away that brings you up quite a bit percentage-wise. And so I think you'll find that we will be fairly close to those.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. You got any other questions? Then we'll do GCED LTFM plan.
Right, so
Open chair, you coming up too? Al?
Alan will help with a little bit more with the Red Wing as well, but you do work with theirs, don't you?
Yes.
Thank you. This is for us later. Okay, so for GCED, every intermediate or co-op needs to work through their member districts in order to receive the funding necessary through a levy for those types of items. That includes our LTFM program. So every year you will hear from us for us to approve their projects as well as then our own projects. We really serve as a flow through. So we collect the money from our taxpayers on their behalf. That money flows over to them. They spend the money there. There is a fund balance specifically for long-term facility maintenance programming. So if you do not spend all the money that you do receive in 1 year, it is there for the following years. One of the things that they are noting in their background that they have provided to us and that you have in your board packet, it refers to the fact that they are anticipating a roof replacement potentially for the building that they have. And it will be 20 years old in 2034. So what you see them doing as a approach in the next coming years is to always plan to levy the $100,000 across the board. And that is then split among their member districts. They may not spend that full 100 because they're trying to save a little bit in that fund balance as well to build up to the point where they would then have something to work with for a building roof repair when it comes time for it. So know that that's their approach to this. There are some forms that you will see attached in your board packet that are Excel, and they are very wide and very difficult to pull up on a screen and show it to you all. They're very detailed. They are an MDE required form. We can't modify that form. We just need to complete the form to tell them exactly how do we plan to spend the money. That there's a revenue sheet and there's an expenditure sheet. The revenue sheet is showing exactly what we would anticipate that revenue would be coming in for each year. In the case of GCED, they are really basing that off from the students they serve, but it's also then spread, like I say, among the member districts. So we get about 32% of what it is that they plan to do that comes through our levy as members. So included in this action item for the board is for our board to approve what GCED's board has put out there and approved, but they have to have their approval of all of their member school boards as well. So your approval is required for them to be able to submit their information also to MDE at the end of July, which is when it's due. Their process is similar, their format of the data they have to complete for the state is very similar. And so you'll see very identical spreadsheets for them and for us, but our numbers are different. And how we plan to spend that money is uniquely different as well. They do have included up and through fiscal 2029, the $22,000 that they are continuing to pay us for when we did the parking lot repairs 5 years ago. And so that's on a 10-year payment basis. And so that is included in this process too that you see in their listings. And I think that covers everything that they have in their background. There is a resolution for each of these, both for GCD as well as for what we bring to you. The resolution assists in the ability for the state to more quickly receive the fact that you have approved it by resolution, and they don't have to wait another month for the minutes to be signed and such. So the resolution is there for the GCED long-term facility 10-year plan, and they're asking for approval for that so that they can submit their information for the fiscal year. It'll be fiscal year 26, and it's pay 25 levy process. And that will be coming for you in September and in December for final approval, but this is the beginning of that process. Questions?
Questions? Yes, Ms. Rowe.
When I'm looking at all the different categories, what is the building envelope?
So the building envelope is basically anything that makes up the outside of the building, windows, doors, roofs, any of those kind of things.
Okay, thank you. And then the interior surfaces, I see that we're paying anywhere from $16,560 a year to more than $20,000 a year. Can you explain what the interior surfaces are?
Interior surfaces are carpets, flooring. That's the primary stuff that ends up being wear pieces on that. So, like we just had something over at Burnside that, that's flooring.
Yeah, they got new carpeting.
Yep.
Is that just something that just accumulates if they don't use it all, or?
No, so I can answer that a little bit better for you. So there is, in GCED, they have different pods. There's 3 different pods in that building. Within them pods, there has been damage done to some of them pods. So we spent some of that money to repair some of them areas that it was sheetrock in some of them areas, and there was damage done lower, I should say, where students can kick or damage in that sense. So we have made repairs with some of that money to help alleviate so it doesn't happen again. So I think that's what you're seeing on them numbers that we put in there. Now, in a typical setting or a typical year, not setting, you probably wouldn't see as much as that. But we started out in one whole pod area and had to do all the way around. And then we ended up going into another pod just to get ahead of it. There was damage in them other pods. And then we haven't done anything in that third pod area yet. But I think that's the numbers you're seeing.
So kicking the wall in, punching a wall.
So LTFM can be used for anything that is it can be a deferred maintenance, or it can be something it's like for like replacement. Can't buy new, but if you were replacing a sheetrock wall or you're replacing the flooring, that's eligible then under the long-term facility maintenance program.
You cannot use it for remodeling.
Right.
Basically, if it's attached to the building, you can LTFM. Now, there's some different instances that you can't, but most of it, if it's attached, you can, if you're repairing.
And it's the same formula based on how many students we have there and our percentage? Is that how all of the districts and these numbers shake out?
Right. Let me just confirm on theirs, the fact that that's the case. Let me just get back to this quick here on their revenue allocation sheet. So in this case, I think that are able to basically determine the amount that they're looking at. And since we claim the students already as our residents, that what's really happening is their expenditure is what's being spread and allocated among their member districts. So it's not quite calculated as similarly as a school district, because here we have students that we're recording under MARS. There are students, based on that count is how our revenue is generated. A intermediate or co-op needs to make sure their members are in agreement with what they're doing with the funds and that they are okay with that program as far as the level of cost. So I worked in another district where the intermediate had a very big project coming up. In order to make that work, they had to make sure there was room in all of our levies for that project to take place, because it had to be a part of what we were also levying taxpayers for. So it is something that they have to work with their member districts to make sure that the dollar amount they have for expenditures can be covered by their member districts within their levy process. But we generate the revenue based on the number of students that we have recorded in MARS and served by us and residents of ours.
So LTFM, GCED get LTFM, or they get it from the member districts?
We serve as a flow through. So
Service what?
we serve as a flow through. So we levy it on our taxes with our taxpayers, each of their member districts, and our portion is 32% or so. What was that form? I think that's what it just showed. And so that portion of their costs we're levying for, we'll get that money from the taxpayers, and then we send it right over to them to be able to spend that money or put it in their reserve.
And in the meantime, our LTFM money locks in and hasn't increased in years.
Well, you have a point there, and that's where that's why it takes the
And
board's.
then, did we budget that, the 32,000 or whatever for that roof in our budget this year? Well, it was 32,000.
Right, so the taxpayers will be levied for that additional 32,000,
So
for example.
One of the taxpayers. for
Yes,
The money, even though we're doing it, but we're doing it for another entity.
yes.
I don't agree with that.
But our kids are there.
Huh?
But Red Wing students are there.
I understand that. Until we get our finances straightened around with GCED, I'm not really in favor much of it, so, to be honest. So you got a resolution here.
Yes.
What's the board's wishes?
I will make a motion to approve the resolution for long-term facility maintenance 10-year plan for GCD.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I will second it.
Second by Ms. Bjornsted. Resolution, we'll call for a roll call vote. Ms. Rowe?
No.
Ms. Ossendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Tiff?
Aye.
Ms. Bjornsted?
Aye.
Ms. Buck?
No.
Ms. Schoenfelder?
No.
And I vote no too. So now what do we do? Go back?
They won't be able to submit this to MDE without all members approving it.
Okay,
Um,
settle for our next meeting to see what else we come up with.
Difficulty that we have is this is due July 31st.
Correct.
For all.
I understand.
So at this point, Lisa, you and I will visit with GCED and see how we proceed from here.
Yep, it's been defeated 5-2.
4-3.
4-3, excuse me. Thank you for the clarification. Red Wing LTFM plan.
Okay, so much of what has been stated about the overall program and how this functions is very similar for us, as I related. I would like to share a little bit of our background information, and you need copies, sorry. And so attached in the board packet will be this as well. But it is we just added to it a little bit of an idea of our 10-year plan, exactly what those projects might look like. Because the MDE form, as they ask for us to prepare it, doesn't really break it down by like, what's your project? It breaks it down by what kind of category of an expense is it?
Thank you.
So we wanted to be able to share with you also how are we really spending this money, right? And what's the plan? So for Red Wing, we know we want to work on this a little bit more. We want to review our long-term needs across the buildings, and we want to spend a little bit more time, given how new I am to it. And frankly, the newness too for Alan, just in just managing it in a different fashion than what he has in the past. So with that in mind, I just wanted to share that our LTFM plan generates annually when you take out the debt part, okay, and we just talk about what's in the general fund, it's about $785,000. You can see when you look at the spreadsheet that shows the revenue generated, it includes everything, but when you look at the expenditure, it shows you what's available for the general fund. And that's about $785,000. Of that $785,000, our typical health and safety needs are running around $220,000. And then the general repairs and maintenance that we have district-wide, this includes things like a portion of Alan's salary, a portion of the person who's doing our repairs and maintenance across the district. It includes the typical standard repairs that Alan finds himself having to take care of, broken water heater or
Electrical, mechanical, site, a lot of different LTFM.
not really a big project, but just the typical stuff that has to get done, right? So that's another $200,000, which when you take those into consideration, it leaves you around $365,000 to work with for a project on an annual basis. And so that used to be maybe a little bit more in the past. This number has been decreasing for us, as you pointed or alluded to earlier, in the fact that it's based on enrollment. And so we have identified like how will we plan to spend that in the next 10 years. This is going to change because this is our first blush right now. What do we think that's going to look like? But if something were to come up and say a roof needed to be repaired or unexpectedly or was before we planned on it, then what would we do? If it were an emergency, of course, we would rely upon our fund balance that we are carrying currently in the LTFM program. And so that is something to consider. If you don't spend the money in 1 year, you can retain it in a fund balance. Not every school district in the state can do that. If you're a much larger district, that's not available to you, but it is available to us, okay? So with that in mind, that's a reason for us to consider hanging on to a fund balance that would be sufficient to cover something that would be a potential emergency for us, say a roof that we hadn't planned on as soon as it may be needed. Regardless, we have 26 through 34 listed there, so you can kind of take a look at what is it we would plan to kind of spend those dollars on. This is kind of the thought plan that was used in generating the dollars that you see that is included in the MDE forms and the expenditures there. So you've heard us talk about seal coating, but we also know that some of those sites we may not choose to do right away for various reasons. And yet there's always HVAC needs. And when I say HVAC, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, but it's not just cooling, but it's also your boiler.
Cooling,
Yep.
heating, yeah. And that is one big chunk that we rely on for a lot of our LTFM throughout the year, day-to-day maintenance stuff. That takes a big portion.
And then you see some windows and sills in there too, as you do need to kind of circle around and take care of some of those periodically. Some of this is going to get shifted as we get more into our in-depth plan as to what we would need to do when we need to do it. And that's why you update this every year. And that's why it's before you every year. But it does require us to give you a plan for 10 years and to submit that 10-year plan to the state for approval. It's their mechanism.
Yes.
So if you remember when I submitted it last year, we did have the Prairie Island roof on there. I think we had it slated for maybe 26, I believe, as we did it last year. But as we move out, we can do the adjustments like Lisa was saying. If the need's not there and the roof is still not presenting a problem, we can push it back. So that's where we'll each year evaluate and move stuff around as to needs.
Called planning.
Planning.
So included in the packet is this background. You have the assurances that would then be signed by our superintendent for submission, as well as the Excel template and the revenue template that they need to see to show that piece, and the resolution for your approval.
Okay, spelled out pretty well. We got a resolution in front of us. What is the board's wishes?
I'll move to approve the resolution approving the District 256 LTFM 10-year plan.
We have a motion by Ms. Ossendorf. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Tiff. Call for a roll call vote. Ms. Schoenfelder,
Aye.
Ms. Buck,
Aye.
Ms. Bjornstedt,
Aye.
Ms. Tiff.
Aye.
Ms. Ossendorf,
Aye.
Ms. Rowe.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Thank you, spelled out. Okay, MREA membership renewal. I believe that's you, Mr. Superintendent.
So with MREA, that's the Minnesota Rural Education Association, and they are an entity that for rural schools, and Red Wing qualifies. They provide lobbying assistance. They are very good at keeping track of things within the legislative process. They are an entity that I've had quite a bit of experience with. It is my recommendation that we extend our membership or retain our membership with Minnesota Rural Education Association for the upcoming school year.
Okay, Ms. Schoenfelder, I know you.
I attended a conference last fall. I will make a motion to renew our membership with MREA.
Motion by Ms. Schoenfelder. Is there a second? I'll second. So moved.
I said
Second, Ms. Rowe, second. Any discussion? You just let us know about any meetings or conferences for them, please.
There's always things there.
I think everyone in the district is able to be a member. It's not just
Yeah, it's not
administrative
just school
staff,
board members, it's,
teachers, staff, any
etc.
staff.
So,
Okay,
There's a lot of good information and opportunity.
all right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, second reading, non-description notices and policies. Any questions on those? Hearing none. 3-year review policies with no changes. For 421, 427. Form for policy 529 is no change. This is a current form from MSBA. Okay? Questions? 3 renewal policies with MSBA recommended changes.
So for the most part on these, 403, 405, 407, 408, 414, they've updated the language and they've updated the references that as a result of changes within the legislative process.
Really just following the law.
Yep.
Okay, yes, Ms. Hook.
I just want to make a comment. When I was reading through those policies, especially the harassment and the violence and the bullying policies, I think it's important to note that this includes cyberbullying, it includes walking to school, it includes behavior on the weekends that impacts your educational experience at school. So we need to be mindful of how we use social media and how we treat people in many avenues, not just inside the walls of this building.
Bullying is not allowed, tolerated by us anyway in the school district. So please report to an adult at the school if you feel you've been bullied by a student. All right. What's the board's wishes on recommendations?
I move to approve policies 403, 405, 407, 408, and 414 with the MSBA recommended changes as presented.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ossendorf, second by Ms. Schoenfelder. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Revoke policy 210.1, conflict of interest charter school board members. We don't have any.
Yeah, we don't have a charter school, so we don't have to worry about this. Let's get it out of the system.
One less thing. Is there a motion the recommendation is motion to, I'll make the motion. I move to revoke policy 210.1 conflict of interest, charter school board members as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Schoenfelder. Any discussion? I recall we talked about this was because it was just something that came before us years ago and we just decided, it came back around that we didn't need to do it through MSBA. So, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Director's contracts. Ms. Lisa Ryder.
Attached in the board packet is a background information regarding these agreements that are before you for review. Excuse me. These are 3 contracts that they do not fall into the supervisors and directors terms and conditions, which is a different agreement. They instead are for 3 positions that are at the next level up as directors. All 3 positions do not currently have a fiscal year 25 contract, and the Director of Community Education's contract for FY24 hasn't yet been addressed. So I'm going to piece these 3 apart. In fact, there's also, as you note at the very end, a recommendation for each of these on a separate basis. But to talk first about the Director of Community Education contract, this contract, because it's coming off from an agreement that had been a part of an association previously, it essentially includes much of the same language. It does include an increase in base salary proposed of 3.5% for each year. And in this case, that's fiscal year 24, which would be retroactive, and fiscal year 25. All other language related to the insurance contribution or holidays or career incentive or retirement provisions are unchanged from the previous contract language that had existed. Are there any questions about that one?
You want us to act on that one now and then, or come back?
I would recommend that you act on that as she goes.
Okay, we'll do that. Motion, is there a motion to approve the Director of Community Education Recreation contract for 2023-25 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Armstead, second by Ms. Rowe. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Ms. Ryder?
Next is the Director of Teaching and Learning contract, which includes a defined salary that is within the past range for the similar position. Because it was a position that was newly hired, they were already placed at a point within that range, and that's what you see reflected in the attached agreement. The terms of the rest of the agreement are very similar to the next contract, which is the Director of Finance and Operations, just because they are very similar type positions. Very similar also in nature to the Director of Community Education language, except there is no retirement language in the Director of Teaching and Learning contract, and there is no retirement language of similar nature in the Finance and Operations contract.
Okay, we'll do the Director of Teaching and Learning contract first. What's the board's wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract as presented.
Motion by Ms. Ossendorf. I'll second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything further on the Director of Finance and Operations?
You can see the stated increase there. It's just a 1 year for the fiscal year 25, and that is an increase over the 24 amount that was from when I started.
Okay. So motion to approve the Director of Finance and Operations for 2024-25 as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Tiff, second by Ms. Ossendorf. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Upcoming meetings and future topics.
I feel like I need to say something.
You what?
I need to say something,
Okay, say something.
okay? And maybe it's not.
No, do future topics, yeah, you're
All
fine.
right, well, I really don't feel comfortable with the decision we made to not approve the long-term maintenance plan for GCD. I fully understanding that there are financial issues that we need to deal with and communication and relations that we need to deal with, but I think when we're talking about maintaining the asset and maintaining the building, I don't know that it was a good idea to not pass that.
Thank you. Well, Pat, it failed 4-3 the motion, so it's got to be brought back at a
understand.
future meeting by the people
Or on
that. But I think you heard the superintendent and is going to meet with Ms. Ryder, and they're going to meet with GCD and have a conversation about it. So
Okay,
we have to,
I just had to say it.
I'll just say this, you've heard me, we've heard from several people, you know, our financials, we want to work with GCD. But we want to know what we're getting. We're not, our financial situation, you know, we're being billed for after the fact. Why can't we find out what we get ahead of time? Why can't we find out what we're paying ahead of time? Why can't we get our federal dollars passing through us to pay them instead of them getting it and then settling up with us after the year? So that's just backwards to me on billing. So we need to have a conversation with them. I get it, but this probably could have came more before us sooner, had a discussion at some point. Instead of just at the last minute here, we want to charge $32,000 for a new roof in 10 years from now. So, I get it. But we have to want to work with them, but, you know, I think we need to have a sit-down conversation about how we can get the financial situation straight around between the two of us. So, yes, Mr.
Could I ask Lisa a question about that?
Sure, go right ahead.
Too far into the weeds. I was just, sure. I was just wondering if this 32,000 is a large increase from previous. Do you know LTFM funds that we have passed every year just to continue to make sure that the building continues and that GCD can continue to serve our children?
It's very similar to the previous year.
Okay.
Yep. And as you look at their 10 years out, they're trying to keep it level, so there's no big surprises.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate the fact that they've done that.
Thank you.
Any other upcoming meetings? We're gonna schedule a agenda meeting for Tuesday, the 23rd at 8:30, and then policy meeting. That's a new one, just came up tonight. Any other meetings? Your topic, the next meeting is August, am I right on this, August 5th? Is that a Monday? 5 o'clock workshop, 6 o'clock meeting? Yes.
Can we, for a future topic, bring up again the Jefferson Building? Put that on our agenda and
Sure.
move forward.
And then, just before 2024 is over, maybe reach out to Jody Purdue and schedule a future, meeting with tribal council and school board and superintendent.
I do that on your schedule, so, yep. Good question, yeah. Because last time we met, we said we want to meet regularly, and if it's quarterly.
Probably
regularly.
after the school season gets started, and then you can report to them anything that,
Okay.
just,
Is there any recommendation on who of this group would attend?
I don't need to attend because I don't need to build a relationship with tribal council, but I will leave that up to you guys. And, my suggestion would be just to rotate, because not to go out of quorum, but to rotate, just so everybody has an opportunity to build that relationship, because some of us may not come back again, right? Through our term, so.
Right.
Yes.
I'm very passionate about enrollment because we want people in Red Wing to come here, and it's the biggest, easiest source of our funding. And so I know we had an enrollment study that was tagged along as part of our buildings study to do grade level configurations and assess the status of our buildings. And that enrollment study went awry, or what didn't really produce lucrative information. I'm wondering if the board would be interested in pursuing another enrollment study to capture real data and to look at that data and move forward with recommendations on what that data shows, especially if there's been mention of future referendum discussions in the very near future. I think it would be important, but
Should we, we need to talk about Roma, because we keep talking about it, we just keep kind of shifting the can around without getting real answers, and I think superintendent had some during the retreat, talked about some of that stuff, and he talked about it during his interviews too. I think if we use, if he can gather some information for that conversation before we just do a study, I think we can figure out which way to go from there, but I think we need to have a presentation by him for the board to see what we can do.
I have an idea on how we can start that process, but I don't think I'm at the point where I can recommend a path just yet.
thanks.
Yes,
Well, and then to go along with that, we really need a concerted conversation about future financing. We have learned a lot in the last few months about the state of our finances, but we need a long-range plan about what we're gonna do about it.
yep, that probably, Lisa Scudder should get in the fiscal year tidied up, and then she's getting ready for the audit, so just put that on there, sort of down the road, down to come up with something. When she's got some time in 2027 or 2028. But Bob's here, Bob's the finance person too,
We
so.
can, I mean, there's a lot of work that we can do jointly to take the load off of each other.
Anything further? Entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Ms. Ossendorf.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Yep.
Second by, Ms. Schoenfelder. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.